Welcome to dojo.live, the place where top minds in travel and hospitality check in to share insights and breakthroughs shaping the industry. Brought to you by Ancora, your trusted partner for AI, cloud, and data-driven innovation. Enjoy your stay. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Ancora's Dojo Live. This What Are We Tuesday, March 4th, 2025. This is where we have candid conversations with industry leaders tackling the biggest technology challenges in travel and hospitality. I am your host today, Kim Lantis, and we'll be diving into episode number 6 of our series, Unlocking Revenue, Insights from Hospitality's RMS Leaders. Here to help as my co-host is America Guerrero.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited. Hey, Matt.
Hello.
Hello, America. Hello, Matt. So today, Matt, we're going to be discussing the secrets to total hotel profitability. And it's not just rooms, right? We're going to be talking about things from late checkouts to daytime cabanas, how hotels can turn every touch point into a revenue opportunity. Now, Matt, as you lead us into this conversation, you are, excuse me, I didn't introduce you properly, Matt Benn, Senior Sales Representative of Retailing Hospitality Solutions at Sabre. So you're going to be leading us in this discussion. We're going to start there, but before we do, we'd really like to know a bit about your background, your role at Sabre, and what excites you most about the work that you're doing in hospitality retailing today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very helpful to know if I'm going to tell you something, you're like, who is this person? Where are they coming from? So my background, I've actually worked in a number of different avenues around media. So I used to work for an ad agency. I worked for a media company for a decade. I've worked for Sabre now for 7 years. And throughout all those stops, basically what my focus has been is helping get the word out about something and trying to create action amongst those people. So regardless of what industry, it's the same concept. But to the hotel industry, it's this idea of, hey, I want to find guests, right? How do I basically get them to interact with me, get to know me, hopefully book my hotel, come stay, have a great time, tell their friends and family about it. And so that's really what I've been doing now for so long. And so what excites me about that is this concept of there's this shift going on in the industry. And it's kind of funny to think about because the shift it's a lot of it's been going on already in other industries, but it's just now taking over the hospitality industry. And the concept is, how can I basically showcase more than just that room to those hotels or to the guests? How can I basically be like, hey, yes, the room's great. I've got plenty of those, but how can I show you all this other stuff to basically try to make your trip everything it can be? Right. So how can we here at Sabre and myself help hotels understand how to get your message out there, how to get that information in front of that person and give them the opportunity to say yes. And the most exciting part is really just that shift, right? This concept that it's not just rooms. I can do a lot more with this.
Exactly. So let's talk about that shift because, as you've mentioned, traditionally, revenue management has focused on room rates, but right, the industry is, of course, shifting toward a more holistic approach, selling what you mentioned, experiences, not just the stay. You know, as we dive into how that's happening and how it can be done, I'm first curious about what's driving that change and how does it impact profitability as a whole?
Yeah, I think the biggest part of the change is the guest experience. Guests expect the ability to say, yes, I want a room, right? I can see all the rooms you have and I'll find one in a rate that you've created. But what else do you have? So many guests today are looking for that inspiration. They're like, hey, I'm interested in a trip. Cost isn't really the thing I'm caring about the most right now. Inspire me to go on this trip. So yes, the room's a part of it, right? It's a very big piece of the puzzle, but there's all these other things of what restaurants do you have to offer? What experiences on site? What things can I add to my experience while I'm there to really drive me to say, you know what, maybe I will book this adventure, right? So it's all the very key focus of the shift is what guests want today. The next thing I like to think about is if you ever watch the show Shark Tank, right? Mr. Wonderful is always like, I like your product, but where do you go from here, right? It seems like you kind of have a niche, but you need to broaden, how are you going to, do more? The same thing goes with hotels. I like to think of, this is my dumb story that I've looked into of, I like to think of Starbucks. If you are 40 years or older, you probably remember there was a moment in time when Starbucks just sold coffee. That's all they had. And
Or in
wait,
my case, when it started out, I got the Italian sodas, the flavored Italian sodas, which I don't even
oh
think they're a
yeah,
thing anymore. Like a
I
simple
do.
one with whipped
Yep.
cream and we're good. Yeah.
I do remember those. But at some point, Starbucks started branching out, right? Starbucks was like, hey, let's sell gift cards. All of a sudden, they were next to the register. Then they started selling merchandise, like they've got their little tumbler cups and coffee mugs over on the wall. And then they started selling breakfast right next to it, right? Breakfast and coffee kind of goes hand in hand in the morning. And all of a sudden, you're seeing them in the grocery stores and so on and so forth. My point of this story is Starbucks' core revenue still comes from coffee, right? Their
Mm,
drinks. That is the core of what they do. To the hospitality space, the rooms is your core revenue. But you can grow your piece of the pie of rooms while also growing these other ancillaries. And all of a sudden, your little pie is massive. And that's where we really want to get to, right?
mhm.
A lot of hotels are great at room revenue, right? They've been doing it for decades. They know it. That's their thing. And that will still continue to be their core revenue. But how can you ultimately unpack all these other things that guests today expect and want?
I
Yeah.
totally agree. I totally agree. This reminds me of a trip that I had to Chihuahua, Krill, which is beautiful. Audience, you should go. And when I was looking for a hotel, I wasn't just thinking about the room. I was thinking about the whole experience, the tours out there. If there was a hotel with a tour included, I would pick that one, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this leads me to this question.
It, I have
Yeah.
a question though for you, America, and you Matt, because this is your story, and I can't help but say you're Gen Z, right? Or
Oh
the
yeah.
youngest millennials, the oldest Gen Z, more or less, right? So is this generational? Is this also what's driving people like America who now have their own income to spend, but there's something different that attracts them? Or if we think baby boomers, um, God, I've worked my whole life and now I'm here at the end of it and I need to do something like, is this a drive?
Yes, it absolutely is. I think the younger generation has seen technology work in a certain way and now they expect it. So when it comes to the hospitality industry, if you're not keeping up with what other industries are doing in the technology space for just the ease of use,
Mm.
that's a problem. But yeah, it's my father who's close to 80 years old very well be like, oh, I'm just going to go talk to the concierge when I get to the hotel and book random things. I don't want to do that. I want to be like, I want to go find it myself. I would love to book it immediately whenever I want to, and it's all taken care of.
Yeah.
Yeah, control.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And
America.
yes, as you're saying, Matt, hotels have a lot more to offer beyond just accommodations. So I'm thinking of spa packages, which are my weakness. They use rooms, restaurants. What are some of the most creative, fun, or even unusual ways to have seen that you have seen hotels monetize their assets?
Yeah. One of the craziest things I think I've seen in the last couple of years is during COVID, everyone stayed home and they all went out and got pets. And those pets have now become like a member of your family. And people love to take their pets on adventures way more than they ever did. So the amount of hotels that are offering pet policies has jumped significantly because people just want to travel with their furry friend. But I mean, I've seen, there's all the normal stuff you'd expect, right? There's the hotels that are like early check-in, late checkout, maybe a spa package, something like that. But there's things like I've seen hotels sell their own socks with their branding on it. It's dress socks. Maybe that's a thing. I don't know if that's like, a flex when you're in a business meeting. There's things like, for kids, it's like, it's not just like a rollaway bed or something like that, or the pull out sofa with the awful lumbar support. It's like they will build you a tent city for your kids to camp out in. It's kind of interesting. One of my personal favorites that I've seen so far I think it's in Florida, and they're selling a Gloria Estefan Barbie doll. And I looked into the stats behind the scenes. People are buying it. So it's pretty a random thing that you could monetize, right? If people want to buy
That's
it, great.
a Gloria Estefan Barbie with a
Yeah.
hotel exclusive offer.
Yeah. They don't have the accompanying Miami sound machine, but they do have Gloria stuff on.
I love it. I love it. And we're talking about things, ways to attract and in some ways a standalone offer like a Barbie doll. But
Yeah.
what are these other standalone offers that seem like a great way to attract the non-staying visitor? You mentioned Florida. So, I mean, what about the people who are there and they live in paradise? How can we turn those people into, you know, part of our guest experience, future potentially overnight guests? What are some of the creative ways hotels are using those kinds of offers to boost brand visibility, drive conversion?
Good question. I think standalone is something to think about where so many hotels, let's say, focus on room revenue, and maybe they aren't focusing on all these other things to focus on total revenue, right? That's something we want to see change and is changing as time goes on. The same goes with, hey, I'm focusing on my guests, right? Those are our core people. But the standalone offer is really meant for maybe someone is local. They don't need a hotel room, right? They'll go back to their house at night, but they'd love to do something with you. Maybe someone's passing through, right? They don't need a hotel room there, but they're on their way through. They like to do something while they're there and then they're off. Or there's someone who's like, hey, I'm actually going to stay at like the cheaper hotel, maybe next door, but I actually want to come and hang out. Maybe you're very Instagram worthy. I want to make my friends jealous, but I don't want to pay the price. Or, you're just the coolest spot in town. The standalone offer is this concept of, hey, I don't care if you're a guest or not. I don't want the room to get in the way of creating revenue opportunities for myself and giving you what you want. So that's the best way to use standalone. But it's also something where I've seen hotels are like, well, I've got 8 different technologies that I use, right? I've got a technology that I use to book spa appointments. I've got a technology to book golf tee times, rooms, so on and so forth. And it's a lot. So think about, from a hotel perspective, I've got 8 different technologies, 8 different contracts. If there's ever an issue, I got to call 8 different people, and it can be frustrating. So when you're using standalone, you can, in theory, at least with the Sabre product, you can use this where you're like, hey, the thing I use for my rooms, I can use that exact same tool to offer all these random things to people that may not be here, right? And one of the biggest things I've seen people use it for is like pool day passes. So many different resorts have pools. They're not fully maxed out in capacity. They're like, yeah, I'll let you come hang out during the day, buy some F&B with me, maybe buy a cabana. So be it. So standalone can definitely help you in that concept of just maximizing revenue for guest and non-guest.
Yeah, that's something that I
I
have
liked your
seen.
not get the room in the way. That was a really good quote. Sorry for the interruption, Ame, but it reminded me of what Scott Pusillo, also Sabre, had mentioned of the think outside the room, right?
Yeah.
That play of think outside the box
Uh-huh.
and not to let the room get in the way. That's
Well,
another great
if you
one-liner.
remember the old marketing campaign from Taco Bell, think outside the bun. Just think about it. Think outside the room.
Yeah, also in the Riviera Maya, for example, me that I'm from Cancun, something that it's really something that we also looking for. It's to find if there are some pool um, places, as you said. I mean, not just staying at the hotel, but we are always looking for those hotels who are open their doors, so you can go stay just the day, look at for those restaurants that are delicious, and it's another way to get more revenue, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking of other industries, for example, retail. What are the strategies that can hotels borrow from these sectors to make the most of their space?
Yeah. So let me back up to when I was talking about myself. One thing I think that's helpful to understand where I'm coming from is when I was hired on at Sabre almost 7 years ago, I never worked in the hospitality industry. Some people might be like, that's a problem, right? You're at the hospitality tech company, but you don't know hospitality. I came from the world of media and advertising and helping try to entice someone again to take action on something. There's a lot of people within Sabre who have worked in hotels significantly. So they were like, hey, that's okay if you're an outsider. What you're doing, I want you to think like a guest. I want you to not be in the hotel mindset, because we have a lot of people who are, they're surrounded by their 4 walls of a hotel every single day. So that's what I've been constantly trying to keep, is this mentality of, what is the guest thinking? Yes, it's good to know what the hotels are thinking in that industry, but let's focus on the guest. And the reason I bring that up is guests are normal people, right? They haven't worked in necessarily the hospitality industry. So what are these guests doing outside, maybe booking a trip, right? Every single one of us who's listening has probably shopped on Amazon in the last day, or, at least the past week or so. It's a common thing. There's things that Amazon does that can easily be transferred over to the hospitality industry. And we're trying to do that here at Sabre. So things that we're very much used to, it's nothing new. It's nothing revolutionary. It's this concept of, oh, you booked this hotel room, you also might and it could be some sort of ancillary, or people also purchased, or whatever it might be. So really, it's just when you go out there and online shop, look at those things that other industries and other things are doing, and you can easily pull things like that into the experience. And like I mentioned with the idea of, the younger generation, they expect that. They're not like, whoa, what is this all of a sudden? I'm not used to this in this space, but they see it everywhere. So it's this concept, just the hospitality industry at times just catching up to what people are used to.
Mhm. I suppose this might be becoming an old school concept a little bit, but speaking of retail, this makes me think gift cards, right? So you've
Mhm.
got a physical gift card, you can do it digitally as well, but it is a huge revenue driver in the retail space. I'm curious as to why hotels haven't fully capitalized on things like gift cards, or
Yeah.
if it's coming. What can they do to increase these sales via convinced guests who then want to share that experience down the road? How can they turn it into a more long-term snowball kind of profit stream?
I would say 99 out of 100 hotels I talk to are like, we've always wanted to do gift cards. We've talked about it, but we just have never pulled the trigger. And I think the biggest reason is people don't understand what they're missing out on. They don't know how much money is sitting out there that literally it's a revenue stream that's turned off at the moment. So that's one issue. And it's a hard thing to answer because there's so many variables that can go into it. For instance, are you a hotel that nobody likes? The reviews are awful. Maybe you're not going to have a lot of gift card sales. Maybe you're a hotel that is the place to be. People love you and they want to gift the experience of your place to somebody else. You might have a lot of gift card sales. So that's one thing, is just this concept of, okay, I just don't know what am I missing out on? But I think there's also a number of different factors. There's competitors out there in the space. Sabre obviously does a gift card program, but there's other competitors that do it, and we all do it a little differently. And a lot of times there's some sort of manual effort that's involved today. And any manual effort, since especially COVID, scares a lot of hotels because they're like, my operations team is fully maxed out. I want to make sure those people are happy. I don't need them leaving. So if you enter any little manual piece of the puzzle, it scares me a little bit to do that. Thankfully, we're working on trying to make that much more seamless and way less manual effort. So really, it's more, I guess what we're trying to do is we're trying to build it to a point where the guests actually prefer what we're going to do and the hotels barely have to touch it. So I think that's going to help significantly as that comes to fruition over the next couple of months, and really break down some of those fears.
Huh.
Another thing I think in the gift card space is something people don't talk about a lot is you don't have to just do monetary gift cards. Like, I could say, hey, it's America's birthday tomorrow. I'm going to give her $100 gift card. She might be that type of person that's like, thanks, but that's kind of impersonable. Like, I wish maybe you just bought this the night before and it just seems a little like not custom. Well, what if it's like, hey, I actually got you $100 gift card to the spa at this hotel. I know you've been talking about it and now you can go use this.
I'm
It's
already jumping.
yeah, it's the exact same dollar
It's like,
amount. It's
yes,
just
yes.
it's a different way to package it, right? Do you want a $100
Mhm.
monetary gift card or do you want a $100 spa experience? To the hotel's perspective, it doesn't matter, right? Whatever you're trying to sell us, it's just this concept of giving people the option to say yes. That's a lot of what this is. It's like, hey, I've never showcased these things that I sell before until people show up on site. Well, what if you can use technology to give you more chances for that person to say, do I want this? Do I want it? Maybe I don't. Maybe I do. Same with gift cards, right? Maybe a monetary gift card is most of what people want. Great. But the experience vouchers is a whole nother thing. We could say, hey, maybe the people that really want that
Mhm.
personal thing that they can give somebody, maybe they would actually spend the money on that, but they wouldn't on monetary gift cards.
Yeah, I think your perspective is really interesting when you say give them a chance to say yes, because maybe, and kind of going back to the manual operation, this fear perception,
Yeah.
it's like, what if they say no? But if they say no, you're no worse off than you were already. So give them the chance to say yes.
The other thing to consider is gift cards and experience vouchers. They're big at certain times of the year. So think about these. These are gifts, right? I'm going to gift this to you. When do people gift things? Birthdays, anniversaries, graduations, holidays like Mother's Day, but the biggest time of year is the holidays, specifically here in the US, right? I think 46% of all gift cards and experience voucher sales are in that fourth quarter. And it's very, very heavy into December when you're worrying about, well, if I buy this, I don't know if it's going to be shipped on time and get to my person. I'll just buy them this, right? I'll buy
Or
them
you're
that gift
cash
card.
strapped and you're waiting for the bonus to hit your
Yeah,
bank
yeah.
account, and then you're like, oh no, now I don't have time. I have the money. Now I don't have
Yeah.
the time.
So the cyclical thing that happens in the hotel space is, let's say early in the year, holidays just ended. We kind of missed that time period. We'll get around to it later. All of a sudden, Q2, we're really starting to gear up for the busy summer travel season. Q3, it is the busy summer travel season heading into fall. Fourth quarter, hey, why didn't we ever get that gift card and experience voucher program set up? It's too late. And then we just repeat this over and over. So it's one of those things. It's like investing,
Yeah.
right? When was the best time to invest? Yesterday. When's the next best time? Today. So it's
Today.
this thing you just have to jump into and figure out what works for you to really take advantage of it.
Wow. So we're talking about personalization, and this is possible with technology.
Mm-hmm.
And my question is, when hotels try to implement these new revenue strategies, like the ones that you just mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
what challenges do they typically face? Are there operational or technological barriers that hold them back?
There can be, but I think it's helpful, especially for hotels who are wanting to be like, hey, we really want to dig into some of these ancillary sales, right? Like that Starbucks little pie chart we were talking about. We've got our coffee, but I want to grow the mugs and the gift cards and the breakfast, that analogy. It helps to have someone who's on site that I would call a champion, to be like, that is our person who's going to kind of handle this whole thing. So there's at least this point of contact who's, they're in charge of it. I've talked to some hotels that are like, oh, we have someone who handles, their whole focus and how they get paid and all their bonuses and stuff is all on RevPAR, but we want them to take over total revenue. How willing are they to really focus on total revenue when they're not, embedded in that? So that's something to just think through. But I think it's helpful to know, at least with our technology, I can obviously speak to ours. Our technology is not trying to create an operational mess. We understand that operational teams is a huge focus for hotels. And again, you don't want to cause, you want to put a stick through their wheel and all of a sudden make it just mass chaos. That's not what we're trying to do. So it's a matter of making sure that you talk to the teams you work with, right? Whatever tech stack you have, and making sure that how the technology works for you. You don't want to set something up and then all of a sudden it's a disaster. You want to make sure that, hey, this is how our operations team works. Maybe I have this dream of how it could work, but I'm going to make sure this works exactly how I want it to work today. So it's working for you, not against you.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's great to pick partners that also help in that process, I imagine, and
Yeah.
working through those types of things. I was curious too. I mean, we've talked a lot about what has happened, what is happening, opportunities. I wanted to lean a bit into the future, right? You mentioned RevPAR, you mentioned total revenue. So, how do you see this total revenue management concept evolving? Are there any trends or innovations on the horizon that you think hoteliers should be paying close attention to, gift cards aside?
Yeah. I mean, gift cards is an easy one, right? We all understand what gift cards is. That's easy. But I think there's other things that we're trying to do to really focus on what a guest want, but also create these revenue streams for hotels. So it's not even things that have to do necessarily with the ancillaries that we're doing. Like in our booking engine that we're working on, we have things to just help consumer confidence. So imagine I've booked my room. Let's say I've got my ancillaries in there. So I booked a cabana, right? I'm all set for my awesome trip. I'm going to relax at the pool. But what if it's an area where it's like, well, I don't know how the weather is going to be. We're building something in our booking engine where, the weather, you can basically be an insurance, right? If it rains all of a sudden, you can cancel, no questions asked. The hotels still get their money. They don't have to worry about that, right? But it helps give that consumer confidence. If the weather's making them freaked out about it, great. We'll make sure that you can account for that, and the money all works itself out. Same goes with buy now, pay later, right? This concept of, okay, I booked my cabana, and it was only $10 more than the actual room that I already had planned. Great, I'm gonna do that. And a lot of people are like, well, if I'm booking 6 months out, do I want to pay that off over 6 months until I get there, or do I want to pay for it 6 months after? A lot of the buy now, pay later stuff has nothing to do with the hotel. The hotel gets their money when they need it. But again, it's giving that consumer confidence of, hey, if you don't want to spend, let's say $2,000 for your trip right now, but you want to break that up, you can. So there's some really cool stuff around that. and including things like, Google Pay, Apple Pay, fun stuff like that to, again, just make it easy. Make it easy for that guest to say, okay, this is the way I want to pay. This is the things I'm worried about. I'm all set there. But when it comes to the actual like ancillary world that I'm living in with retailing, there's some really cool stuff coming where obviously there's hotels that are like, I know how to showcase my cabanas. I know how to showcase a bottle of champagne, early check-in, pet policy, so on and so forth. But a lot of times there's hotels that are like, okay, there's so much stuff to do around me. You can imagine a city center hotel, right? If I wanted to offer everything that my guests like to do, I would have to go reach out to 50 different companies and make relationships and maybe deals with them. And that's a mess, right? I'm trying to run an operation. I can't go focus on that. We're building something called a marketplace where basically we can bring these things together for you, and you can include that in your booking engine or not. So you could say, hey, you know what? My guests love this one thing. I love to point them in the right direction to go experience it and enjoy it for themselves. I'm going to include that in the booking engine. And when that happens, when you sell it, you get a piece of the pie. You don't have to touch it for operations. The other company actually handle it for you. That is a huge piece of the puzzle that we think a lot of, hotels that have a lot of things that going on externally can all of a sudden create revenue streams. And those companies who are working in that space will be like, oh, thank you for sending business my way. Please
Yeah.
send more.
It's totally a great idea, especially in like the collaboration sense or this long-term revenue stream that we were talking about earlier, because you're not just now focused on your space, but the space around you,
Yeah.
right? A community, a collaboration, which is good for everyone. And then I think it just, and it, like you're saying, it opens up a much, 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 maybe even limitless scope of opportunities and options. That you can't offer, but will still bring that guest to your community and then hopefully bring them back. And when they do come back to the community that they loved and experienced so much, your hotel is the hotel that they stay in or recommend for others.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Finally, we're coming to the end of our amazing conversation today, but I did want to wrap up for giving you a chance to speak directly to any of those hoteliers who are listening in today and thinking, oh, this all sounds great, but where do I start?
Yeah.
Right? What's sort of the first actionable step you think they should/could take?
So here's the easiest thing to do. And I do this constantly for hotels. So you're running a hotel. You've got your four walls around you, right? That's your world and you're living it. A lot of times I hear GMs talking to their team members and say, hey, you know what? When was the last time we did, we walked the grounds and we think about it from the guest perspective. So you look through the lobby, you look through the rooms, the hallways, and you just look at like, how does the guest see this? Because we see it differently, right? We're living in it all day long. So that's great, right? Look, walking the grounds on property is great, but I always like to think of walk the grounds in the digital space, right? Your website, your booking engine, and your digital media, like that's you. That's your online voice that people are researching and looking at before they ever show up on property. What does that look like to the guest? And when it comes to the ancillaries in particular, my space, I'm always like, okay, what are you showcasing in your booking engine? What's not there? What can I buy that's on property that maybe is showcased on your website, but it's not included in your booking engine, right? That's the easiest place to start and say, hey, we have a spa, but you can't book anything spa related in our booking engine. That might be a problem because you're hoping that the guest is like, okay, I booked my room. I've got that squared away. Now I'm going to go back to your website. I'm going to find the spa stuff. I'm maybe booking that separate technology. And then hopefully I'll come back and go look at your golf course and book that separate technology. The more hoops you make somebody jump through, the less likely they're going to. So how can you streamline that and bring it all together? Thankfully, Sabre has a way to do that within our booking engine, but it's just that simple to basically say, what are we showcasing? What's missing, right? What needs to be cleaned up? And I would talk to, whoever your tech stack partners are, talk about that. Look at the options they have to basically streamline it and not make it so all over the place.
I love it. I love it. Start with your providers, see how it can be streamlined, and then live the experience, not just in the physical world, but in the digital world. I mean, talking about creative and unusual ways, you could even use it as a giveaway in terms of like your own staff. Like, hey, we're gonna do this, and we'll give you that bottle of champagne if you book it. But just your job is to experience it, report it, and tell me how it can be better. And what a fun way to get everyone involved, to get everyone, you know, into it and passionate about what they do and what they're offering. I love it. Thank you so much, Matt, for your great conversation today, your amazing tips, and a great insight into what's happening in hospitality retailing. Before we go, if our audience wants to learn more about Sabre Hospitality, particularly the retailing side, or connect with you, what's the best way that they can go about doing that?
There's a couple different ways. So you can go to Sabre Hospitality's website and find us through any of those buttons. I'm pretty sure we have request demos that will go out to our team. You can reach out to me directly by matt.benn, B-E-N-N, at sabre.com. Or you can find me on LinkedIn. Just looked up, and there's not a lot of Matt Benns out there. There's only a few, I think, in the world, and I'm not related to them. So Matt Benn at Sabre on LinkedIn. And I can get you in touch with anybody internally or myself to give you more insight.
I love it. Not to be confused with any Ben Mats.
No. Although I get it daily. So if you call me Ben Matt, it's okay.
All right. Well, fantastic. Thank you again, Matt. I would also like to thank our sponsor, Ancora, for making these conversations possible. As a reminder, Ancora does partner with leading travel and hospitality companies to accelerate innovation through world-class engineering solutions. And of course, to our audience, if you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to follow Dojo Live for more insights on the industry. You can do that on our website and across a variety of socials like LinkedIn, Instagram, X, Facebook, and of course, Spotify. And I do want to say that we will have another show coming up tomorrow. That is Wednesday, March 5th, as we speak with Claudia Alvarado Cruz, who is a senior analytics manager at STR. She's going to be talking about how market intelligence, benchmarking, and forecasting provide the foundation for better revenue decisions. Matt, thank you. America, thank you, everyone. And until tomorrow, stay curious, stay innovative, and of course, bye for now.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.